Welcome back to Sleepless Wonder, where we dive deep into the shadows of history, unravel mysteries that time forgot, and explore the legends that still whisper through the ages. If you're new here, I'm thrilled you've joined us. Thank you for tuning in and becoming part of our curious community. And to all our returning explorers, your support means the world. It's what keeps these tales alive. Before we saddle up and ride into today's adventure, I'd love to hear from you. Where in the world are you watching from right now? Drop it in the comments below. It could be a bustling city, a quiet countryside, or somewhere far off the beaten path. If you enjoy what we uncover here, hit that like button to show your appreciation, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a journey into the unknown. Oh, and if there's a mystery legend or piece of forgotten history you'd like us to tackle, next let me know in the comments. Your ideas often spark our most intriguing episodes. Now imagine this. The sun rises over a vast, unforgiving desert, casting long shadows across the parched earth. You're huddled in a makeshift camp, the weight of a six-shooter at your hip, the scent of campfire smoke lingering in the crisp morning air, a wanted poster with your face flutters in the wind nearby, and every rustle in the brush could be a lawman closing in. This isn't just a scene from a dusty old western. It's your life as an outlaw in the Wild West. But would you survive it? The thrill of freedom on the frontier came with a price: relentless danger, moral crossroads, and mysteries that blurred the line between legend and cold, hard reality. Today, we're stepping into those worn boots to explore what it was really like, the heists that made fortunes disappear, the hideouts shrouded in folklore, and the unexplained vanishings that still haunt the American West. Buckle up, because the trail ahead is as treacherous as it is tantalizing. Picture this. You've just stepped off a rickety stagecoach in a dusty frontier town, the sun beating down like a hammer on an anvil, and the air thick with the scent of horse sweat and sagebrush. Your pockets are empty, your past is a shadow you'd rather forget, and the law? Well, it's as distant as the green fields you left behind back east. This is the moment, the crossroads where a man or woman might choose the outlaw trail. But how did you get here? What twisted path led you to stare down the barrel of a life on the run? In this vast, untamed expanse of the American West, becoming an outlaw wasn't always a deliberate choice. Often, it was a desperate grasp at survival in a world that chewed up the weak and spat them out. Let's dive deep into that journey, peeling back the layers of history, legend, and the lingering mysteries that echo through the canyons like the howl of a lone coyote under a blood moon. To truly feel the pull of the outlaw life, we have to rewind to the chaotic aftermath of the Civil War, that bloody scar that divided the nation from 1861 to 1865. The war didn't just end with the surrender at Appomattox. Its ghosts haunted the land for decades, whispering in the winds that swept across the prairies. Many outlaws were forged in that fire, veterans who returned home to find their worlds upended, their farms in ruins, and their loyalties shattered like glass under a boot heel. Take Jesse James, for instance, born in 1847 in the rolling hills of Clay County, Missouri, into a family with fierce Southern sympathies. As a mere teenager, you, imagining yourself in his boots, might have joined a guerrilla band of bushwhackers, those shadowy riders who struck from the underbrush, ambushing Union patrols with rifles cracking like thunder in the night. The war taught you to live by the gun, to trust only your kin and your horse, and when peace came, it felt like a bitter joke. Your family's land is gone, seized, or taxed away by Yankee carpetbaggers, and the Reconstruction laws choke the life out of the South. Jobs are scarce. The railroads snake across the land, but they're built on the backs of men like you only to enrich distant tycoons. So what do? You gather a few trusted comrades, brothers in arms from the war, and you plan your first strike. A bank in some sleepy town, fat with northern money. The thrill of it courses through your veins as you ride in masks, pulled low revolvers gleaming in the sunlight. Jesse and his brother Frank, along with the younger boys, formed such a gang, roaming from Iowa down to Texas, pulling off daring robberies that left lawmen scratching their heads and newspapers buzzing with tales of their exploits. But oh, the legends that swirled around Jesse like dust devils on the plains. Folks whispered that he was no common thief, but a modern Robin Hood stealing from the rich railroad barons. to ease the burdens of poor southern farmers. You'd hear these stories in dimly lit saloons where grizzled cowboys leaned over whiskey, glasses recounting how Jesse once slipped a wad of bills to a widow facing eviction, or how he outwitted possess with clever disguises and hidden trails known only to the spirits of the land. Of course, in the heat of the moment, as you count your ill-gotten gains by campfire light, you know the truth is grittier. Revenge fuels your fire more than charity. The war's resentment burns deep, a festering wound that no treaty can heal. And the mysteries. Whispers of cursed gold treasures buried in haste during midnight escapes, marked by cryptic signs that only the initiated could read. Some said Jesse's halls were protected by old Indian spells, dooming any who tried to unearth them without the right words spoken under a full moon. These tales kept the curious at bay and added to the aura of invincibility that cloaked men like him. Not every outlaw path was carved from the embers of war, though. Some, like Billy the Kid, tumbled into it through the cruel whims of fate and the raw edge of youth. Born around 1859, perhaps, in the teeming streets of New York City or some forgotten Midwest hamlet, you'd find yourself young, orphaned, and adrift, pulled westward by tales of fortune in the territories. Your family drags you across the endless plains, first to Indiana, then Kansas, on to Denver, and finally into the sun-baked lands of New Mexico, chasing dreams that crumble like dry adobe. Tuberculosis claims your mother when you're barely 15, leaving you and your brother to fend for yourselves in a world that devours the vulnerable. Foster homes offer no solace, they're just way stations on the road to nowhere. Petty theft becomes your bread-stealing laundry to sell lifting food from market stalls under the cover of bustling crowds. Your first real scrape comes in 1875, arrested. For a minor theft, you shimmy up a chimney and vanish into the night, a ghost in the making. Fleeing to Arizona, you fall in with horse thieves, learning the art of the rustle under starlit skies where the only law is the speed of your mount. By 1877, at just 17, you've killed your first man, a burly blacksmith who pushed you too far, in a heated card game in some godforsaken mining camp. Was it murder or self-defense? The line blurs in the haze of gunsmoke and adrenaline. Now you're marked a wanted boy with a price on your head, drawing you deeper into the shadows. Survival is your creed. The West offers no mercy for orphans without kin or coin. You ride into boomtowns like Lincoln, New Mexico, where feuds rage like wildfires. The Lincoln County War erupts in 1878, a savage clash between cattle kings drawing gunslingers like moths to a flame. You join the Regulators, a band of vigilantes avenging their boss's murder, and the killings mount ambushes in dusty streets, shootouts under the relentless sun. Legends bloom around you faster than sage after. Rain tales of your lightning draw your boyish charm that hides a killer's eye. Dime novels back east paint you as Billy the Kid, the eternal youth, defying corrupt sheriffs and greedy monopolists, a symbol of rebellion that captures the imagination of a nation hungry for frontier myths. But in your quieter moments camped in, a hidden arroyo with the wind moaning like lost souls, you ponder the mysteries. Whispers of haunted canyons where Apache spirits guard secret paths, or buried caches from Spanish conquistadors that tempt outlaws with promises of untold wealth only to lead them to doom. Women too carved their own defiant paths into outlawry, shattering the fragile illusions of Victorian propriety like a bullet through stained glass. Belle Starr, born Myra Maybelle Shirley in 1848, amid Missouri's verdant farms, grew up in a world turned upside down by war. Your family imagining her. Story as your own harbor's Confederate guerrillas and the chaos seeps into your blood. Marriage to Jim Reed, a notorious horse thief, pulls you into the whirlwind after his death. In a hail of bullets, you wed others. Bruce Younger, then Sam Starr, a Cherokee outlaw with eyes like polished obsidian. In the wilds of Indian Territory, you rustle horses across federal lines, fence stolen goods in hidden clearings and harbor fugitives under the cover of night. Dressed in velvet skirts and feathered hats, with a pearl-handled revolver at your hip, you become the bandit queen, a figure of allure and terror. Motivations swirl like river eddies, the thrill of defiance, the necessity of survival in a man's world, the intoxicating pull of love for dangerous men. Legends cast you as a seductress who bends wills with a glance or a vengeful spirit avenging southern wrongs. Mysteries abound in the territory's misty hollows. Tales of bootleg whiskey runs guarded by ancient Cherokee curses or hidden lairs where outlaws vanish like smoke, leaving only echoes of laughter and gunfire. Poverty often ignited the spark, especially in the rugged Mormon settlements or feverish mining camps. Butch Cassidy, born Robert Leroy Parker in 1866 in Utah's barren expanses, hails from a family scraping by with 13 mouths to feed. Mentored by an old rustler named Mike Cassidy, you adopt his ways, starting as a butcher's boy, then turning to the quick score of cattle theft under moonless skies. Your first big haul comes in 1889, a bank in Telluride, Colorado, bursting with silver dollars that jingle like promises in your saddlebags. Economic desperation drives you. Why break your back on a ranch when a single heist can buy freedom? You form the Wild Bunch, a crew of sharp-eyed desperados who strike banks and trains with the precision of a well-oiled Winchester. Journeys take you across the jagged Rockies, hiding in labyrinthine canyons like Hole in the Wall, where legends speak of natural fortresses, impenetrable to lawmen protected by the ghosts of trappers long gone. Butch's myth grows the gentleman, bandit who robs without needless blood, always one step ahead, vanishing into the wilderness like a phantom. His partner, the Sundance Kid, Harry Longabore, born in 1867, drifts from Pennsylvania's coal towns to the Rockies, motivated by the siren call of adventure and easy riches, together with enigmatic figures like Etta Place, whose past is a veil of secrets, perhaps a schoolmarm turned rogue or a dance hall darling. You flee southward, whispers of your exploits fueling campfire stories of unbreakable bonds and daring escapes. Then, there's John Wesley Hardin, born in 1853 in Texas's thorny scrublands, a whirlwind of violence from boyhood. Stabbing a classmate, killing at 15 out of blind hatred, the war's poison runs deep in him. As a Confederate sympathizer, you roam the Reconstruction South, claiming kills with a cold certainty. I never killed a man who didn't need killing. Ego and vengeance propel you, escaping jails like a devil, slipping chains, racking up a tally that chills the blood. Legends portray you as the deadliest draw in the West, with folklore whispering of saloons, where your shadow still lingers, daring fools to speak your name. Bill Doolin, born in 1858 on Arkansas, farm starts as an honest cowboy, but tastes the forbidden fruit of bank heists with the Doolin-Dalton gang in the 1890s. Greed takes hold after the first rush of gold coins spilling from a safe, leading to a life of calculated risks and narrow getaways. Sam Bass, orphaned and rootless, drifts to Texas, graduating from cattle drives to train robberies, like the legendary 1877 Union Pacific Haul. Ballads sung by cowboys immortalize him, turning his betrayals and bloody end into enduring folklore. Jim Miller, a shadowy figure from 1861, emerges as a hitman cloaked in darkness, his kills numbering in the dozens, motivations as murky as midnight. Swamps. Lynched in 1909, his enigma fuels tales of unpunished sins and spectral reckonings. These paths, war's scars, orphans' despair, poverty's grip could easily become yours. The journey west is a gauntlet wagon, trains creaking under canvas stagecoaches, jolting over rutted trails plagued by breakdowns, ambushes, or savage storms. You'd ford raging rivers like the Missouri, brave the Oregon Trail's fever-ridden camps, or ride the iron horse of the railroads after 1869, only to arrive in corrupt boomtowns where sheriffs pocket bribes and justice swings from a noose, forming a gang. In the smoky haze of saloons, from Deadwood's raucous dens to Tombstone's glittering halls, you bond with fellow outcasts over cards and rot-gut whiskey. Ex-soldiers with haunted eyes, gamblers with slick tongues, even native scouts sharing forbidden trails. Loyalty is forged in shared peril, but betrayal lurks like a rattler in the rocks, as Jesse learned when greed turned a comrade's heart. And the mysteries that flavored it all? Unsolved treasures buried in haste, marked by twisted trees or carved stones cursed to bring misfortune. Whispers of ghost towns where spirits of hanged men guard hidden loot, or Apache curses on sacred grounds that doom interlopers. Urban legends. of vanishing riders swallowed by the desert, their bones bleaching under an indifferent sun. Folklore of shapeshifters and wendigos in the Northern Territories blending native tales with settler fears, adding layers of dread to every shadowed canyon. As you huddle by that flickering campfire, the weight of your choices settling like dust. On your shoulders you can't help but wonder, is this ragged freedom worth the eternal chase? The West beckons with wide open skies and untold riches, but for every legend born, a dozen souls vanish into its maw, leaving only echoes and enigmas for the ages. The dust from your last narrow escape still clings to your boots as you urge your horse deeper into the shadowed canyon, the walls rising like silent sentinels carved by eons of wind and rain. The sun dips low, painting the sky in hues of crimson and gold. But there's no time to admire the beauty of the frontier. Your stomach growls like a caged beast, and every snap of a twig could signal a posse on your trail. This is the raw edge of outlaw life, not the glamorous shootouts of dime novels, but the grinding daily survival on the run where every dawn brings a new battle against hunger, the elements, and the gnawing fear that today might be your last. You've chosen or been forced into this path, but now the West tests you relentlessly, demanding cunning endurance and a touch of luck from whatever gods watch over desperados. Let's immerse ourselves in that unforgiving routine, feeling the weight of the saddle, the bite of the cold night air, and the mysteries that lurk in the untamed wilds, where legends are born from the whispers of the wind and the secrets buried beneath the earth. Imagine waking before first light in your makeshift camp, the embers of last night's fire glowing faintly like dying stars. Your bed is a threadbare blanket thrown over hard ground, perhaps in a hidden arroyo, where flash floods have carved out natural shelters, or tucked into the mouth of an abandoned mine shaft, echoing with the drip of unseen water. No soft feather. Mattress for you rocks jab into your back, and the chill seeps through your clothes, a reminder that comfort is a luxury left behind in civilized towns. You stir quietly, ears straining for any unnatural sound, the distant whinny of a horse that isn't yours or the faint jingle of spurs from a bounty hunter creeping close. Paranoia is your constant companion. You've heard tales of outlaws betrayed in their sleep throats, slit for the reward money printed on yellowed posters tacked to every saloon wall from Kansas to California. Rising, you check your revolver first, always spinning the cylinder to ensure it's loaded with those precious cartridges, each one a potential lifeline in this lawless expanse. Water is your first priority, as vital as the air you breathe in this parched land. If you're lucky, your camp is near a trickle of a stream fed by mountain snowmelt, but more often you scout for it at dawn following game trails, or the flight of birds to hidden springs. The Great Plains stretch endlessly in some regions as sea, of grass where waterholes are guarded, secrets sometimes poisoned by alkali or fouled by dead animals. You carry a canteen battered and dented from falls off your horse, filling it carefully, boiling the water over a small fire if you suspect contamination. Cholera and dysentery have claimed more outlaws than bullets, turning strong men into fevered wrecks, hallucinating ghosts in the heat. Legends abound of cursed wells dug by ancient peoples or Spanish explorers, where drinking the water brings visions of doom or drives men mad with thirst that no amount can quench. You've heard cowboys spin yarns around campfires about wells haunted by the spirits of thirst, maddened prospectors, their skeletal hands reaching up from the depths to pull the unwary down. In your quieter moments as you sip the cool liquid, you wonder if those tales hold a kernel of truth, born from the delirium of dehydration in this merciless terrain. Food comes next, and it's a far cry from the hearty meals of your old life. Hunting. Is your mainstay rabbit deer or prairie dog? If you're in the open country, stalking silently with a rifle or setting snares overnight, the crack of your shot echoes like a betrayal across the valleys, potentially drawing unwanted attention. So you prefer quieter methods. A bow fashioned from yew wood if you've traded with native tribes, or simply foraging for wild berries roots, like camas bulbs or edible cacti in the southwestern deserts. But rustling cattle is the outlaw's bread and butter, especially if you're riding with a gang like the Wild Bunch. You'd creep onto a ranch under cover of darkness, cutting fences with wire nippers herding a few head into a secluded corral miles away. Slaughter one, swiftly, with a knife to the throat, the warm blood steaming in the cool air, then butcher it, crudely steaks roasted over flames, the rest jerked into tough strips for the trail. The risk? Ranchers, post guards, and brands on the hides. Scream stolen goods, if you're caught selling in town. Folklore whispers of ghost herds. Spectral cattle that vanish at dawn, luring rustlers to their deaths over cliffs or into quicksand pits. Remnants of old native curses on white men's greed. Clothing and gear demand constant attention. The West weathers everything to tatters. Your boots once sturdy leather crack and split from endless miles, soles worn thin on rocky paths. You'd mend them with rawhide strips or stolen nails, or trade with shady merchants in border towns for new ones, perhaps lifting a pair from a general store during a quick raid. Coats are layered against the brutal swings, scorching days that blister. Skin followed by nights where frost rims your mustache. A wide-brimmed hat shields your eyes from the glare, but it's also a disguise pulled low to hide your face from prying eyes. Your horse is your most prized possession, a loyal Mustang or stolen. Thoroughbred fed on sparse grass or pilfered oats, you'd groom it meticulously, checking for stones in hooves that could lame it mid-flight, whispering soothing words as you curry its coat under the stars. Lose your mount, and you're as good as dead on foot in this vastness, with no mercy from the sun or storms. Health hazards loom like storm clouds on the horizon, turning the daily grind into a gamble with fate. Injuries from falls or brawls fester without proper care. A bullet graze might be bandaged with a torn shirt sleeve soaked in whiskey, the alcohol burning like fire as it cleans the wound. Snake bites are a terror. Rattlers coiled in the underbrush, their strike-swelling limbs to grotesque sizes. You'd slice the bite with a knife, sucking out the venom in a desperate ritual passed down from frontiersmen praying it works as you tie a tourniquet with your bandana. Diseases spread like wildfire in camps, typhoid from bad water smallpox, scarring faces into masks of horror, or the slow rot of scurvy from lacking fresh fruit, loosening teeth and reopening old wounds. Outlaws traded remedies in hushed tones, herbal. Poultices from willow bark for pain or stolen laudanum for the agony of a broken bone set crudely with splints. But mysteries infuse these cures. Legends tell of hidden hot springs with healing waters known only to outlaws who stumbled upon them, in delirium bubbling from the earth, like gifts from underground spirits. Some swear by charms, a rabbit's foot, for luck against infection, or a silver bullet melted down to ward off tetanus, blending settler superstitions with native lore that speaks of earthbound entities punishing those who desecrate the land. The psychological toll weighs heavier than any saddlebag, eroding your spirit like wind on sandstone. Isolation gnaws at you days without human contact, save for your gang if you're not riding solo. Conversations with yourself turn to madness, replaying past heists or imagining betrayals. Aliases become second nature. You're Blackjack one week, Texas Red, the next shedding identities like snakeskin to evade recognition. Wanted posters haunt your dreams, your likeness crudely sketched eyes staring back with accusation. Paranoia breeds rituals, sleeping with one eye open, revolver cocked under your blanket, or burying loot in shallow caches marked by peculiar rocks or twisted trees, maps drawn in code that only you can decipher. Folklore thrives in this solitude. Tales of phantom outlaws, men who vanished into the wilderness, their camps found abandoned with food still warm as if snatched by unseen forces. Whispers of Wendigos in the northern Rockies, shape-shifting beasts born from cannibalism and starving. Times or the skinwalkers of Navajo lands cursing those who trespass with eternal unrest. You felt it on moonless nights, a prickling at your neck, wondering if the shadows hold more than coyotes. Weather is an unrelenting foe, shaping your every move like a capricious deity. Blizzards in the high Sierras blanket the world in white, death forcing you to hole up in snow caves, rationing jerky as winds howl like banshees. Dust storms on the plains blind you, grit filling your mouth and eyes, turning day to choking twilight. Flash floods roar through canyons without warning, sweeping away camps and horses in muddy torrents. You'd read the signs, clouds building over, distant peaks or the sudden flight of birds urging your mount to higher ground. Heat waves in the Mojave bake the earth mirages, dancing like taunting spirits, promising oases that dissolve into sand. Survival hacks become law, wrapping wet cloths around your head to cool down or digging shallow pits for shade. Legends speak of lost souls in these extremes. Outlaws mummified in deserts, preserved eternally as warnings, or frozen in mountain passes, their bodies emerging in thaws like relics from a forgotten age. Social interactions are rare and risky, laced with deception. In remote trading posts or native villages, you'd barter stolen goods for supplies, ammunition, flour, coffee, the bitter brew that keeps exhaustion at bay. Trust no one, a friendly trapper might be a Pinkerton spy in disguise, his easy smile hiding a telegraph wire to the nearest marshal. Gangs provide camaraderie, but tensions simmer arguments over shares of loot, exploding into knife fights under the stars. Women in this life. Saloon girls or fellow outlaws like Pearl Hart, who robbed a stagecoach in 1899, dressed as a man, offer fleeting comfort. But attachments are dangerous, easy targets for leverage. Urban legends circulate in these encounters, stories of cursed artifacts traded unwittingly, like a gold watch that brings bad luck, or maps to phantom mines where gold veins glow with otherworldly light, luring men to madness. As the day wanes, you scout for the night's shelter, eyes scanning for defensible spots, a cluster of boulders offering cover from all sides, or a dense thicket of mesquite thorns deterring pursuit. Fire is a double-edged sword, warmth and cooking versus the beacon it casts for enemies. You'd build it small, smokeless if possible, using dry dung for fuel in treeless plains. Supper might be beans soaked in your canteen, flavored with wild onions, eaten cold to avoid detection. Sleep comes fitfully, dreams haunted by faces of the dead, or visions of nooses swaying in the breeze. The stars wheel overhead, vast and indifferent, reminding you of your smallness in this grand, brutal theatre. Yet, amid the hardship, there's a raw poetry to it. The freedom of the open range, the adrenaline of outwitting fate one more day. But survival extracts its toll, forging you into something harder, wilder, forever marked by the frontier's unforgiving embrace. The mysteries persist, unexplained disappearances of entire gangs' camps found with gear intact, but men gone as if evaporated into the ether. Folklore attributes it to vengeful spirits, guardians of the land, reclaiming what was stolen. As you drift toward uneasy slumber, revolver in hand, you can't shake the feeling that the West itself is alive, watching, waiting to claim you in its timeless dance of life and legend. The adrenaline surges through your veins like wildfire as you crouch in the underbrush, eyes fixed on the dusty trail winding through the valley below. A plume of dust rises in the distance. The stagecoach is coming right on schedule, its iron-rimmed, wheels churning up the earth like a beast on the prowl. Your gang is positioned just right, 2 men hidden behind boulders to block the road, another with a rifle trained from the ridge above, and you heart-pounding, ready to leap out with your bandana, masking your face and your revolver cocked. This isn't some reckless impulse. It's the culmination of days, maybe weeks, of meticulous planning, where every detail could mean the difference between a haul of gold dust and a noose around your neck. Welcome to the thrill of the heist, the beating, heart of outlaw life in the Wild West, where fortunes were won and lost in a blaze of gunfire and daring, and where legends were forged in the smoke of dynamite blasts and midnight rides. But beneath the excitement lurks a world of calculated risks, shadowy alliances and mysteries that could turn triumph into tragedy. Tales of cursed loot that vanished into thin air, or ghostly apparitions guarding forgotten treasures. Let's saddle up and ride through the planning and execution of these infamous crimes, feeling the weight of the gold in your hands and the shadow of the law at your back. Planning a heist starts long before the first shot is fired. It's a game of chess played on horseback across the vast chessboard of the frontier, where one wrong move spells checkmate at the end of a rope. You'd begin in a dimly lit saloon or a secluded cabin, maps spread out on a rickety table under the flicker of a kerosene lamp, the air thick with tobacco smoke and the murmur of low voices. Your gang hardened men like yourself, each with their Own scars and secrets would gather around fingers tracing routes on yellowed paper stained with coffee rings and pencil marks. Intelligence is key. You'd scout the target for days, maybe weeks, riding incognito into towns like ordinary cowboys eavesdropping, in barbershops or general stores for whispers about payroll shipments or bank vaults bulging with miners' gold. Take a bank robbery, for instance. You'd note the teller's routines, the thickness of the walls, the comings and goings of the sheriff's deputies. Is there a back door unguarded after noon? A window that could be jimmied open under cover of night? Tools of the trade are simple but essential, a set of lockpicks fashioned from wire or a crowbar pried from an abandoned wagon. But for bigger scores, like the trains barreling across the plains after the Transcontinental Railroad linked east to west in 1869, planning escalates to military precision. You'd study timetables smuggled from station agents, perhaps bribed with a few silver dollars, marking spots where the track curves slow or crosses isolated bridges, perfect for boarding on the fly. Roles are assigned with the care of a general, deploying troops, each man playing to his strengths to minimize chaos in the heat of the moment. You're the leader, maybe calling the shots with a steady voice that masks the knot in your gut. One comrade is the lookout, perched high with a spyglass, signaling with mirror flashes or bird calls if trouble approaches. Another handles the horses, ensuring fresh mounts are tethered nearby for the getaway, their hooves wrapped in burlap to muffle the sound on hard ground. The muscle man cracks safes or intimidates guards, while the sharpshooter covers from afar, his Winchester rifle a silent promise of death to any who resist. Communication is coded whistles, mimicking owl hoots or hand signals, passed like secrets in the dark to avoid betrayal by eavesdroppers. And always the escape plan, multiple routes fanning out like spokes on a wheel with decoys or false trails to confuse pursuers. Legends swirl around these preparations, tales of outlaws consulting with mysterious figures. Perhaps a disgraced engineer who knows train weak points, or a native scout revealing hidden passes through mountains said to be haunted by the spirits of ancient warriors' paths where the wind carries warnings to those who listen. Some whisper of omens ignored at peril, a black cat crossing the planning table, or dreams of ravens circling folklore born from the frontier's blend of superstition and hard reality, where a botched heist could be blamed on a curse as easily as bad luck. Execution day dawns with a tension thick as fog rolling off the Missouri River, your nerves strung tight as a guitar string about to snap. For a stagecoach hold-up like those pulled by Black Bart in the California hills from 1875 to 1883, you'd time it for a lonely stretch of road far from telegraph lines that could summon help. As the coach rumbles into view, drawn by a team of snorting horses, you burst from cover with a shout that echoes off the rocks. Throw down the box. The strong box, heavy with gold coins or greenbacks from mining camps, crashes to the dirt. As the driver complies, hands raised high, your gang swarms like wolves. Rifles pointed at passengers who might include wide-eyed Easterners or tough prospectors, all ordered to empty pockets of watches, rings, and wallets. Black Bart the poet. Bandit added flair-leaving verses at scenes like, "I've labored long and hard for bread, for honor, and for riches. But on my corn's too long, you've tread, you fine-haired sons of bitches." You'd grab the loot swiftly, hearts racing, then melt into the wilderness, dividing shares under a stand of pines, where the only witnesses are squirrels and the whispering leaves. But mysteries haunt these moments, stories of stagecoaches vanishing, entirely drivers swearing they saw ghostly riders in the dust or loot that seemed to evaporate, cursed by the blood spilled. In its taking folklore that turns simple crimes into epic sagas passed around campfires. Bank robberies amp up the stakes, demanding nerves of steel in broad daylight amid bustling streets. Picture the James Younger Gang's infamous 1876 attempt on the First National Bank in Northfield, Minnesota, a plan gone awry that became legend. You'd ride in disguised as cattle buyers, hats, low coats, hiding holsters. One man distracts the cashier with a phony deposit, while others vault the counter revolvers drawn barking orders to open the vault. Time is your enemy, alarms might ring, or a brave citizen could grab a shotgun from the hardware store next door. Dynamite, that devil's invention patented in 1867, becomes your ally for stubborn safes, a fused stick tossed in the blast, shaking the building like an earthquake, smoke billowing, as gold spills out in a glittering cascade. But in Northfield, townsfolk fought back bullets whizzing from windows, turning the street into a killing ground. 2 gang members dead, others wounded, and Jesse barely escaping on a bloodied horse. The thrill turns to terror. In an instant, you're mind racing as you spur your mount through alleys, dodging lead that sings past your ear. Folklore elevates such fiascos whispers that the bank was protected by a Masonic curse, or that spectral guardians ghosts of Civil War dead rose to aid the defenders' tales that explain the inexplicable failure of a foolproof plan. Train robberies capture the imagination like no other. The Iron Horse, a symbol of progress ripe for plundering. The Reno Gang pioneered it in 1866, but Butch Cassidy's Wild Bunch perfected the art in the 1890s. Planning involves derailing tools, piles of logs on tracks, or loosened rails to halt the locomotive in remote badlands. You'd board amid the screech of brakes, masks, up guns blazing to cow the engineer. The express car is the prize guarded by messengers who might barricade inside, forcing you to blast the door with shotgun slugs or threaten with lit dynamite tossed through vents. Inside, safes yield payrolls for railroad workers, thousands in crisp bills or gold bars from Colorado mines heavy enough to strain your saddlebags. The gang scatters post-heist riding hell bent for hideouts like Robber's Roost in Utah's canyons, where narrow slots defy pursuit. But the execution holds perils, express guards fighting back with hidden pistols, or unexpected Pinkerton agents aboard, turning the car into a bloodbath. Mysteries abound in these tales, trains robbed of treasures that were never recovered, like the Union Pacific's 1899 haul near Wilcox, Wyoming, where $3,000 in unsigned bills vanished, some say hidden in caves guarded by rattlesnake spirits, or swallowed by the earth in a sudden sinkhole, urban legends that fuel treasure hunters' dreams to this day. Cattle rustling offers a steadier, if less glamorous thrill, a staple for outlaws like the Dalton Gang in the Oklahoma Territory. Planning is about reconnaissance, scouting vast ranches under starry skies, noting herd sizes and brands. Those seared symbols of ownership you'd alter with a running iron, heating it red hot over a fire to morph a Bar X into a crude boxed O. Execution means night rides silent as shadows cutting wire fences with pliers, then driving the lowing cattle through draws to hidden holding pens miles away. Sell them quick at crooked markets in Kansas cow towns, pocketing cash before brands are checked. But risks lurk ranch hands on night watch or stampedes, triggered by thunder scattering the herd into chaos. Folklore paints rustlers as cursed figures, doomed to wander as ghosts if caught and hanged from cottonwoods, their spirits moaning with the wind guarding stolen herds that appear and vanish in mirages on the plains. As the heist unfolds, tools evolve with the times, from simple Colts and Winchesters to Gatling guns smuggled from army surplus for overwhelming force, or nitroglycerin for blowing vaults, its unstable brew handled with trembling hands. But every crime carries the seed of its undoing, a dropped glove linking you to the scene, or a boastful tongue in a saloon loosening secrets. The thrill is intoxicating, a rush purer than whiskey, but laced with dread, knowing one slip could end it all. Yet in the afterglow, dividing the spoils by lantern light, you'd feel like kings of the frontier gold, glinting like stars fallen to earth. Mysteries enhance the allure, unexplained fortunes that brought ruin, like cursed Aztec gold, rumored in southwestern halls, or maps to buried caches passed in dying breaths, leading to empty holes haunted by whispers. Urban legends of heists, guided by dreams. Visions of hidden weak points, revealed by ancestral ghosts, add a layer of the supernatural, making each robbery not just a crime, but a dance with fate and the unknown. The heist defines the outlaw, a symphony of planning and pandemonium, where legend meets lead. But as you ride away, loot, jingling the high fades, replaced by the ever-present hunt. The West remembers these moments, etching them into folklore that endures, a testament to the bold who dared to seize what the world denied them. The thunder of hooves echoes through the narrow canyon. As you spur your horse harder, the wind whipping your face like a lash from hell itself. Behind you, the posse closes in a dozen riders' badges glinting in the harsh sunlight, rifles raised and spitting lead that ricochets off the rocks like angry hornets. Your heart slams against your ribs, every twist in the trail, a potential ambush or escape. And in that moment, you realize the true cost of your outlaw ways, not just the crimes you've committed, but the endless dance with the law where one wrong step means a shallow grave, or the creak of a gallows trapdoor. This is facing the law in the Wild West, a relentless game of cat and mouse across vast prairies and jagged mountains filled with heart-pounding chases, desperate shootouts, and cunning evasions that blurred the line between survival and legend. But woven into these tales are the mysteries that haunted the frontier whispers of ghostly lawmen who pursued beyond the grave-hidden trails, protected by ancient curses and unexplained vanishings that left posses scratching their heads under starlit skies. Let's ride headlong into this perilous world, feeling the burn of powder smoke in your lungs and the weight of a wanted poster bearing your name as we explore how outlaws like you dodged justice in an era where the law was as wild as the land it sought to tame. Picture yourself galloping across the open plains of Kansas dust clouds, billowing like smoke from a battlefield, your horse's flanks lathered in sweat as you glance over your shoulder at the pursuing riders. These aren't just any men, they're a posse hastily assembled by a local sheriff after your latest bank job went loud. Sheriffs in the Wild West were often elected locals, ranchers, storekeepers, or former soldiers with badges pinned to their vests and authority as thin as the paper it was written on. But they commanded respect through grit and gunfire, rounding up volunteers with promises of reward money or civic duty. You'd hear them coming miles away, the rhythmic pound of multiple horses, and your mind would race. Do you head for the river to lose your scent in the shallows, or veer toward the Badlands, where eroded gullies offer cover like a maze carved by some vengeful god? Chases like these could last hours, even days, testing your mount's endurance and your own resolve. Horses faltered under the strain, foaming at the mouth, and outlaws sometimes abandoned them mid-flight, scrambling on foot into thorny thickets, or scaling sheer cliffs where no sane pursuer would follow. Legends abound of miraculous escapes, tales of outlaws, whose horses seemed possessed by supernatural speed, leaping chasms that should have been impossible, whispered to be blessed by native spirits, or cursed by the devil himself, depending on who spun the yarn around the campfire. US Marshals elevated the hunt to a federal art appointed by the government to enforce law in territories where local justice faltered like a candle in the wind. Men like Wyatt Earp or Pat Garrett, with steely eyes and reputations forged in lead-tracked fugitives across state lines, armed with warrants and an unyielding sense of duty. Imagine being you holed up in a dusty cabin in New Mexico when Garrett kicks in the door under cover of night, his voice booming like judgment. "Day Billy, it's over. Throw down your irons." As Billy the Kid, you'd fire back in the dark, bullets splintering, wood and piercing flesh, the room alive with muzzle flashes that lit faces like demons in hellfire. Shootouts erupted in these confrontations, chaotic ballets of death, where accuracy meant survival. You'd draw your six-shooter in a blur, fanning, the hammer for rapid fire, the acrid smell of black powder choking the air as slugs thudded into walls or bodies. Folklore painted these moments with eerie strokes, stories of lawmen who survived impossible wounds, their badges deflecting bullets like talismans, or outlaws who vanished in the smoke, leaving only blood trails that ended abruptly as if swallowed by the earth. Mysteries that fueled dime novels and saloon whispers, suggesting pacts with darker forces or hidden tunnels dug by long-forgotten miners. Evasions demanded cunning as sharp as a Bowie knife, turning the landscape into your ally in a high-stakes game of hide-and-seek. Hideouts were the outlaws' sanctuaries scattered across the West like secrets buried in the sand. Take Hole in the Wall in Wyoming's rugged canyons, a natural fortress of red rock walls soaring hundreds of feet, accessible only through a narrow pass that could be defended by a single rifleman. Butch Cassidy and his Wild Bunch called it home, stashing supplies in caves damp with the drip of underground springs, where echoes carried warnings of approaching riders. You'd post sentries at the entrance men with field glasses scanning the horizon, while inside the gang played cards by lantern light, the air heavy with the scent of beans cooking over low flames. Robber's Roost in Utah offered similar refuge, a labyrinth of sandstone spires and twisting slots, where posses lost their way, horses stumbling into crevices that plunged to unseen depths. Legends cloaked these places in mystery tales of hidden entrances guarded by rock slides, triggered by clever mechanisms or spectral figures. Ghosts of trappers murdered long ago, who misled intruders with false trails, their moans blending with the wind to drive men mad. Some swore these hideouts were cursed, built on ancient burial grounds, where native spirits exacted revenge on trespassers, causing avalanches or sudden storms that buried pursuers under mud and stone. Bounties hung over your head like storm clouds, printed on posters that fluttered from every telegraph pole and saloon door. Your face sketched in crude lines with words like "dead or alive, $500 reward." These incentives turned ordinary folk into hunters' eyes, gleaming with greed as they scanned. Strangers in town, you'd use aliases to evade recognition, calling yourself Sundance one day, Kid Curry the next, changing your look with a shaved beard or a stolen hat, blending into crowds at cattle drives or mining camps. Informants were the real peril snakes in. The grass, like Robert Ford, who betrayed Jesse James for the promise of amnesty and coin, shooting him in the back while he straightened a picture on the wall. Paranoia would grip you tight, every friendly nod, a potential trap leading to evasion tactics, like doubling back on trails to ambush followers, or leaving false camps with smoldering fires to draw them off scent. Urban legends amplified the dread. Stories of bounty hunters with uncanny tracking skills, said to follow signs invisible to mortal eyes. Broken twigs, whispering secrets, or ravens circling over hidden men. Folklore blending with frontier superstition, where a hunter's success was attributed to deals with the crossroads devil granting them the power to sniff out evil like hounds on a blood trail. Ambushes turned the tables, allowing you to strike back with the ferocity of a cornered wolf. Imagine setting up in a ghost town, buildings sagging like weary sentinels, windows shattered, and doors creaking in the breeze. As the posse rides in confident and spread out, you'd open fire from rooftops and alleys, the crack of rifles shattering the silence like thunder. Bullets would whine through the air, men tumbling from saddles in sprays of blood, horses rearing in, panic. The Dalton gang tried this in Coffeyville, Kansas in 1892, robbing 2 banks at once, only to face a town armed to the teeth citizens, grabbing Winchesters from hardware stores, turning Main Street into a slaughterhouse. 4 gang members fell that day, bodies riddled and dragged through the dirt, a grim spectacle that fed legends of vengeful townsfolk possessed by righteous fury or curses laid by dying outlaws that haunted the streets with apparitions of gunfights, replaying under full moons. Native American conflicts added layers of peril and alliance the frontier, a patchwork of territories where outlaws sometimes sought refuge among tribes wary of white encroachment. You'd trade with Apache or Comanche bands offering stolen goods for safe passage through their lands, learning trails hidden in mesas or canyons that twisted like serpents. But clashes erupted too. Raids on settlements drawing war parties in retaliation, arrows whistling alongside bullets in chaotic melees. Folklore wove native mysticism into these encounters. Tales of outlaws adopted as kin, granted visions in sweat lodges that revealed escape routes, or cursed with skinwalker pursuits, shapeshifters, mimicking loved ones to lure men to doom. Mysteries persisted in unexplained alliances like outlaws, vanishing into reservations, never to be seen whispered, to have become ghosts in the machine of tribal legends. Vigilante justice loomed as a shadow law, posses morphing into mobs when patience wore thin. In places like Virginia City, Montana, the Montana Vigilantes formed in 1863, hanging road agents from makeshift gallows without trial, their nooses swinging in the wind as warnings. You'd feel the chill of it, knowing a captured outlaw might face a necktie party, lynched from a cottonwood tree body, left dangling for crows. Evasions here meant constant movement, never lingering in one territory, crossing borders into Mexico or Canada, where US law held no sway. Legends of these vigilantes cast them as dark avengers, some said to be undead souls of murdered innocents, rising to exact justice with ropes that burned like fire on guilty necks. As the chase wears on, exhaustion sets in, your horse staggering vision, blurring from dust and fatigue. You'd push through, driven by the fire of freedom, but knowing each evasion buys only time. The West's vastness offered hope, but its isolation bred despair with mysteries like sudden sandstorms erasing tracks, as if the land itself conspired in your favor or against you. Folklore told of phantom posses riders who appeared from nowhere pursuing relentlessly until the outlaw's heart gave. Out ghosts of lawmen slain in the line of duty bound to the earth, until justice was served. In the end, facing the law forged the outlaw myth, a tapestry of bravery and brutality, where every chase, shootout, and evasion added threads of legend. But as you rein in your horse at the canyon's end, breath ragged you. Ponder the toll the friends buried in Boot Hill graves, the endless horizon promising more pursuit. The Wild West law was a mirror to its chaos, and in that reflection, mysteries endured, whispers of fates intertwined with the supernatural, leaving us to wonder if some outlaws ever truly escaped, or if their spirits still ride the winds, evading capture for eternity. The sun hangs low in the sky, like a bloodied eye casting long shadows across the barren mesa, where you've sought refuge after your latest narrow escape. But even here, in this godforsaken stretch of rock and scrub, peace is an illusion, a fleeting whisper drowned out by the distant howl of coyotes and the relentless throb of your wounds. You've tasted the thrill of the heist, outrun posses through dust-choked canyons, but now the darker truths of outlaw life close in, like vultures circling a dying man. This is the underbelly of the frontier dream, where dangers lurk in every shadow. Betrayals cut deeper than any knife, and downfalls come swift and merciless, often shrouded in mysteries that defy explanation. The Wild West wasn't just a land of opportunity, it was a graveyard for the reckless, a stage where legends were born from blood and broken promises, and where folklore wove tales of cursed fates and spectral reckonings. As you hunker down, revolver in hand, let's delve into this grim reality. The perils that stalked you at every turn, the knives in the back from those you called brothers, and the inevitable ends that turned men into myths, haunted by unanswered questions that echo through the ages, like the wail of a ghost train on the prairie winds. Imagine the weight of it all settling on your shoulders as you ride alone through a moonlit valley, the stars above, indifferent witnesses to your solitude. Dangers were omnipresent, woven into the very fabric of the land, turning the majestic West into a treacherous adversary that claimed more lives than any lawman's bullet. Rival gangs posed one of the deadliest threats, territorial wolves snarling over the same scraps of loot and hideouts. You'd cross paths with them in the Badlands of Wyoming or the deserts of Arizona, eyes locking in saloons where the air hung heavy with suspicion and cheap cigar smoke. A wrong glance could ignite a feud, perhaps, over a disputed horse theft, or a woman in a border town, and suddenly you're ambushed on a lonely trail, gunfire erupting from behind boulders like thunder from a clear sky. The Hole in the Wall gang, for instance, clashed with the Doolin Dalton outfit in the 1890s. Alliances fracturing into bloody skirmishes that left bodies sprawled in the dust, their pockets turned out by the victors. Folklore amplified these rivalries into epic sagas, whispers of gangs bound by blood oaths that, when broken, summoned vengeful spirits. Ghost riders who appeared at midnight, their ethereal forms replaying old battles, luring survivors to madness or self-destruction. Some tales spoke of cursed talismans, like a silver spur, stolen from a rival's grave, bringing doom to whoever claimed it, causing horses to throw riders into ravines or guns to misfire at crucial moments. Mysteries that blurred the line between bad luck and supernatural retribution. Native American conflicts added a layer of primal terror. The frontier, a contested ground where outlaws like you often blundered into sacred territories or raided settlements, igniting wars that raged like wildfires across the plains. You'd hear the war whoops echoing through the canyons as Apache or Sioux warriors descended arrows slicing the air alongside tomahawks glinting in the sun. Men like Billy the Kid tangled with Navajo bands during cattle rustles in New Mexico. Narrow escapes turning into desperate chases, where the land itself seemed allied against you. hidden arroyos, swallowing horses whole, or sudden sandstorms blinding. Your flight. The toll was gruesome scalps taken as trophies, bodies mutilated in rituals that sent shivers through even the hardest gunslingers. Legends abounded of outlaws cursed by medicine men, their shadows lengthening unnaturally, or visions, plaguing their dreams, spectral warriors, pursuing them endlessly, driving them to surrender or suicide. Mysteries shrouded these encounters, like the unexplained disappearances of entire gangs in Comanche country. Their camps found intact, with fires still smoldering, as if the earth had opened to claim them. Folklore blending native curses with settler. Fears of the unknown where the spirits of the land exacted payment for every stolen acre and spilled drop of blood. Vigilante justice struck like a hammer from the shadows. Mobs of ordinary folk transformed into executioners when the law proved. Too slow or corrupt, in boomtowns like Deadwood or Tombstone, you'd wake to the clamor of a crowd outside your hideout torches, flickering like demonic eyes ropes coiled and ready for a lynching. The Montana vigilantes of the 1860s hanged over 20 road agents without. Trial their victims swinging from cottonwood branches as crows pecked at eyes that once scanned horizons for easy scores. As an outlaw, you'd feel the noose's phantom grip, knowing betrayal by a saloon keeper or a scorned lover could summon the mob in hours. Hangings were spectacles, bodies twitching in the dawn-light placards, pinned to chests proclaiming thief or murderer, leaving survivors haunted by the creak of ropes in the wind. Urban legends cast these vigilantes as instruments of divine wrath, some said to be possessed by the ghosts of their victims' families, their faces twisting into unrecognizable masks during the deed. Mysteries persisted in botched lynchings. Outlaws who survived the drop necks unbroken, as if protected by charms, only to vanish into the night whispers, suggesting pacts with the devil that granted unnatural. Resilience turning downfalls into tales of infernal escapes. Alcoholism drowned many an outlaw in its murky depths, the saloons of the West serving as both refuge and ruin, where rotgut whiskey flowed like rivers of forgetfulness. You'd stumble into these dens after a heist, the burn of liquor numbing the ache of wounds and the sting of paranoia. But one drink led to 10 loosening tongues that spilled secrets to undercover ears. Jesse James frequented Missouri taverns, his bravado swelling with each shot glass until betrayal found him sober and vulnerable. The toll was insidious livers, failing in the prime of life hands, shaking too much to draw a gun, straight visions, blurring into delirium tremens, where phantoms of past kills clawed at your mind. Folklore wove drunkenness into curses, tales of haunted bottles, distilled from grains grown on battlefields, that summoned apparitions of the dead to torment the imbiber, driving them to confess or leap from cliffs in madness. Mysteries abounded in saloon vanishings, men who downed a final drink and stepped into the night, never seen again. Their empty stools whispered to be portals to a shadowy underworld where lost souls gambled eternally for redemption. Family separations. Carved wounds deeper than any bullet, the outlaw path severing ties, like a knife through rope, leaving loved ones as ghosts in your rear view. You'd ride away from a homestead in Texas or Missouri, a wife's tear-streaked face fading in the dust, children growing up fatherless while you chased illusions of fortune. Butch Cassidy sent letters from Bolivia, cryptic missives stained with regret, but the distance bred resentment, spouses turning informant for a fresh start, or kin disowning you to escape the stigma of wanted posters bearing the family name. The psychological erosion was profound loneliness festering into despair. Moral compasses spinning wildly as crimes escalated from theft to murder to numb the void. Legends romanticize these separations into tragic ballads sung by cowboys around, campfires portraying outlaws as star-crossed lovers doomed by fate. But reality was harsher mysteries, like anonymous graves of women who followed their men into the wilds only to perish in childbirth or ambushes. Their spirits said to wander, calling names in the wind to lure wandering souls to join them. Pinkerton detectives embodied a new breed of danger, shadowy hounds unleashed by railroads and banks to hunt you with the precision of a well-oiled machine. Founded by Alan Pinkerton in 1850, this private agency operated like a secret army. Their motto, "We never sleep," etched into your nightmares. as agents infiltrated gangs with disguises and silver tongues. Imagine spotting one in your camp, a new recruit with 2 clean hands, and probing questions only to realize too late he's wired reports back east, summoning reinforcements. The Pinkertons tracked the James Younger gang relentlessly bombing Jesse's family home in 1875, killing his half-brother and maiming his mother in a botched raid that fueled his rage. You'd evade them by constant movement, forging rivers to break trails, or holing up in Mexican border towns where their jurisdiction faltered. But their methods were ruthless bribes turning friends into spies, photographs circulated like death warrants, and ambushes set with dynamite-laced traps. Folklore cast Pinkertons as demonic figures, soulless automatons who could track a man by the scent of his fear alone. Mysteries swirling around their unexplained successes, like agents who anticipated heists through dreams or clairvoyant hunches, whispered to be aided by occult practices learned from Scottish law, turning the hunt into a supernatural pursuit where no hideout was safe. Betrayals struck at the core knives wielded by those you trusted most, turning brothers in arms into Judases for a pouch of gold. Robert Ford's shot in the back ended Jesse James in 1882, the coward's bullet piercing, while Jesse dusted a picture, his reward, a lifetime of scorn, and his own violent end. You'd sense it coming. The sidelong glances around the campfire, the uneven split of loot, but greed or fear, often blinded you until the trap snapped shut. Gangs fractured under pressure. The wild bunch splintered when Kid Curry's temper led to needless killings, drawing heat that forced sundered paths. Women could betray too, Belle Starr's lovers turning state's evidence, or Etta Place vanishing mysteriously, perhaps to sell secrets for amnesty. The toll eroded trust, leaving you isolated revolver under your pillow, even among friends. Urban legends amplified these treacheries. Tales of betrayers cursed with eternal unrest, their ghosts reliving the moment of deceit, haunting saloons where deals were struck, or apparitions of the betrayed appearing to warn others mysteries that questioned whether some downfalls were fated by higher powers or mere human frailty. Downfalls came in myriad forms, swift and poetic in their cruelty, etching names into history as cautionary tales wrapped in enigma. Captures like Billy the Kid's in 1881, ambushed in a darkened room by Pat Garrett. His final words are defiant. "Who's there?" Before bullets silenced him forever, or did they? Whispers persisted of escapes. Bodies switched in the night, fueling legends of immortality. Hangings claimed many Blackjack Ketchum dangling in 1901, his head torn off by the drop due to weight gain in jail, a gruesome spectacle that birthed folklore of decapitated spirits wandering headless, seeking vengeance. Shootouts ended others, the Dalton gang riddled in Coffeyville bodies displayed like trophies in Undertaker windows. Mysterious vanishings intrigued most. Butch Cassidy and Sundance reportedly gunned down in Bolivia in 1908, but rumors of survival lingered. Sightings in Spokane or New York, perhaps faked deaths to slip into obscurity. Folklore embraced these ambiguities, tales of outlaws ascending to Valhalla like realms for gunslingers, or cursed to roam as wraiths, guarding lost treasures that tempted fools to follow their fate. The dark side stripped away, illusions revealing the frontier as a mirror to your soul's decay, where dangers, betrayals, and downfalls forged legends from the ashes of broken men. Yet in the quiet of your mesa, hide out as night falls and stars prick the sky like distant campfires. You can't deny the pull, the raw allure that made it all worthwhile, even as mysteries whisper of ends yet to come, leaving you to ponder if your own downfall will birth a new folklore echoing eternally through the canyons of time. The dust has settled on the tales of heists, and heart-pounding chases the echoes of gunfire, fading into the vast silence of the frontier. But before we ride off into the sunset of this outlaw saga, we must confront the shimmering mirage that has long distorted our view of the Wild West. You've lived it in your mind's eye, the bone-weary days on the run, the thrill of gold spilling from a cracked safe, the shadow of the noose ever looming. But was any of it as glamorous as the stories claim? The legends of the Wild West, those larger than life yarns spun around campfires and printed in yellow dime novels, have painted outlaws as dashing heroes, quick-draw demigods dueling under high noon suns, romantic rebels defying a corrupt world with a wink and a whirlwind of bullets. Yet peel back the layers of myth and you'll find a harsher truth, a world of grinding poverty, fleeting lives snuffed out in anonymity and moral decay that left men hollow as ghost towns. This is where folklore clashes with cold reality, where tall tales amplified by eager publishers turn desperate criminals into mythical figures, blurring the lines until even the outlaws themselves might have believed the hype. Let's step into that twilight zone between legend and fact, exploring how the Wild West became a canvas for our collective dreams and fears, haunted by mysteries that still tease us, with unanswered questions like whispers from forgotten graves under the endless prairie sky. Imagine yourself back in a bustling eastern city, far from the dusty trails you've come to know. Picking up a fresh dime novel from a street vendor's cart, its cover splashed with vivid illustrations of a masked rider, rearing on a fiery steed, guns blazing against a backdrop of crimson canyons. These pocket-sized tomes, churned out by the thousands in the 1870s and 1880s, by publishers like Beadle and Adams, were the Hollywood blockbusters of their day, devouring the public's hunger for frontier adventure with tales that romanticized outlaws as chivalrous knights of the plains. Take Ned Buntline's sensational stories of Buffalo Bill Cody, or the endless sagas of Deadwood Dick fictional gunslingers who embodied the myth of the noble outlaw, always outwitting villainous sheriffs with superhuman marksmanship and a code of honor that sparkled like fool's gold. In these pages, you'd see quick draw duels portrayed as elegant rituals, two men facing off on a sun-baked street hands hovering over holsters, the world holding its breath, until a single shot rang out, the victor walking away, unscathed, a hero in leather chaps. But reality? Duels were rare, messy affairs. If they happened at all, often fueled by whiskey and grudges ending in wild sprays of bullets from close range, with bystanders caught in the crossfire and no one emerging as the untarnished legend. Wild Bill Hickok's famous 1865 showdown with Davis Tutt in Springfield, Missouri, was one of the few documented face-offs born from a poker debt rather than high drama, and even that was settled at 75 yards with rifles, not the mythical hip-shot precision of novels. The truth bites harder. Most killings were ambushes from behind stabbings in dark alleys, or drunken brawls that left men bleeding out in the mud, far from the glamorous standoffs that fired the imagination. Folklore amplified these distortions, weaving urban legends that turned flesh and blood desperados into supernatural archetypes, as if the West's vast emptiness demanded gods and monsters to fill its voids. Around flickering campfires in mining towns, or on long cattle drives snaking through the Llano Estacado, cowboys and prospectors swapped stories that grew taller, with each telling blending fact with fancy, until outlaws became folk heroes akin to Robin Hood or ancient tricksters. Jesse James, that war-scarred raider from Missouri, was mythologized as a Southern Avenger, a modern-day Prometheus stealing from railroad tycoons to aid the downtrodden farmers crushed under Reconstruction's boot. Newspapers, like the Kansas City Times, sympathetic to Confederate lost causes, fueled this fire with editorials painting him as a dashing bandit king, his robberies righteous blows against Yankee greed. Yet strip away the veneer, and Jesse was a man driven by personal vendettas, and profit his gang's hauls vanishing into their own pockets, rather than charitable deeds. No evidence exists of him ever redistributing a single stolen dollar to the poor. The legend persisted, though morphing into ballads sung in saloons. Jesse James was a lad that killed many a man. He robbed the Glendale train, the lyrics crooning of his exploits with a romantic lilt that ignored the terror he inflicted on innocent tellers and passengers. Mysteries clung to these tales like burrs on a saddle blanket. Whispers that Jesse's invincibility stemmed from a secret pact with the devil struck in the smoky aftermath of a guerrilla raid, granting him luck until betrayal broke the spell. Some swore his ghost still roamed the Ozark Hills, appearing to travelers lost in fog, offering cryptic warnings or leading them to hidden caches of buried loot, only to vanish with a laugh that echoed like distant thunder. Billy the Kid embodied this myth versus reality chasm, perhaps more than any other. His youthful face immortalized in tintypes that captured a boyish grin, hiding a killer's edge, fueling legends that painted him as an eternal rebel, a Peter Pan of the pistols who defied age and authority alike. Dime novels like Billy the Kid. The boy bandit king exploded after his death, portraying him as a quick-witted orphan, outsmarting corrupt cattle barons in the Lincoln County War. His draw so fast it blurred like lightning, notching 21 kills by age 21 in epic duels that never happened. Reality painted a starker portrait. Billy was likely responsible for fewer than 10 deaths, most in chaotic skirmishes or self-defense, his life a scramble for survival in a lawless territory where poverty pushed him from petty theft to gunplay. Short of stature, plagued by a slight limp from childhood, he was no towering hero, but a wiry kid scraping by his end, coming not in a blaze of glory, but in a pitch-black room shot by Pat Garrett, while unarmed and unsuspecting. Yet folklore refused to let him rest, birthing urban legends of his survival tales that he escaped the grave, assuming a new identity as a quiet rancher in Texas or Arizona. His death a clever ruse involving a body double and bribes to the undertaker. Whispers circulated in New Mexico saloons of sightings, an old man with Billy's sly eyes, spinning yarns of the old days, or ghostly apparitions at Fort Sumner, where his supposed grave lay the spectre, reenacting his final moments under the full moon-drawing thrill-seekers who claimed to hear his voice murmuring regrets in the wind. Women outlaws like Belle Starr shattered gender myths even as they fed into them. Dime novels casting her as the petticoat terror of the plains, a seductive siren in buckskin skirts who commanded gangs with a sultry command and a pearl handled. Pistol her exploits a blend of romance and robbery that titillated Victorian readers. Legends swirled of her as a female Jesse James, harboring fugitives in her Indian Territory cabin while doling out justice with a whip and a wink, her beauty ensnaring lawmen and rivals alike. But the harsh truth? Belle was a tough survivor in a man's world, her queenly status, more a product of sensational journalism than reality, convicted for horse theft. She served time in a Detroit prison, emerging not as a glamorous icon, but a weathered woman, scraping by on rustling and bootlegging. Her murder in 1889, shot in the back on a lonely road, spawned mysteries that endure. Was it her hot-tempered son avenging a whipping, or a jealous lover hiding in the brush? Folklore transformed her into a vengeful spirit, the bandit queen haunting the Oklahoma backwoods, her ghost appearing to wayward travelers as a veiled figure on horseback, offering riddles that led to buried treasures or sudden doom, a blend of Cherokee curses and settler superstitions that amplified her myth into something eternal. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid epitomized the Hollywood glamour that would later define the West, their partnership romanticized in tales of gentlemanly robberies and daring leaps from cliffs, evading posses with charm and cleverness rather than brute force. Dime novels and newspaper serials portrayed them as inseparable rogues. Butch the Brains with his easy smile, Sundance the quick trigger enforcer, their wild bunch a merry band hitting trains with precision, and Panache always sparing lives and sharing laughs. Reality undercut this idyll. Their heists were desperate bids for cash in an era of dwindling frontiers marked by violence when plans soured, and their flight to South America a grim exile rather than a grand adventure. The mystery of their end, gunned down in a Bolivian hail of bullets in 1908, or did they slip away to live quietly in the States? Fueled legends of immortality folklore, whispering of them as shapeshifters who melted into the Andes, protected by Incan spirits, angered by gringo intruders, their ghosts guiding modern treasure hunters to lost halls hidden in Utah canyons. John Wesley Hardin's myth as the deadliest gunslinger, claiming 44 kills in his autobiography, written from prison, clashed with verified records of perhaps half that number, his life a spiral of racism, fueled murders rather than heroic standoffs. Folklore dubbed him a devil incarnate, tales of saloons where his presence chilled the air drinks, curdling in glasses as if poisoned by his aura. Sam Bass, the Robin Hood of Texas, was mythologized for his train robberies, ballads celebrating his generosity. Yet he hoarded his gains, his betrayal and death in 1878, a mundane ambush born of greed. These myths served a purpose, you see, feeding a nation's soul starved for adventure amid the grind of industrialization, turning the West into a mythical realm where men could be gods, if only for a page or two. But the realities were brutal outlaws, seldom lived past 30, their bodies riddled with lead, or disease fortunes squandered on whiskey and women leaving behind unmarked graves rather than monuments. Poverty stalked them like a shadow, most dying, broke their glamour, a facade cracked by hunger and fear. Folklore bridged this gap, amplifying stories with supernatural flare-cursed treasures that doomed their finders ghostly duels replaying in abandoned towns, urban legends of outlaws ascending to a spectral Wild West where justice was eternal. As we sift through these layers, the Wild West emerges not as black and white history, but a tapestry of half-truths and enigmas where myths endure because they speak to our deepest yearnings for freedom and rebellion. Yet in embracing the legends, we honor the realities too, the human frailties that made these outlaws not monsters or heroes, but men and women caught in the whirlwind of a vanishing frontier, their stories whispering mysteries that time can never fully unravel. As the last echoes of gunfire fade into the whispering winds of the prairie, and the sun dips below the jagged horizon like a final defiant blaze, it's time to rein in our horses and reflect on the wild ride we've taken together through the untamed heart of the American West. You've stepped into those weathered boots, felt the grit of the trail under your feet, the weight of a six-shooter at your hip, and the relentless pull of a life where freedom came at the price of everything else. But as the campfire dies to embers and the stars wheel overhead in their eternal dance, one question lingers like a ghost in the moonlight. Would you survive as an outlaw in the Wild West? The thrill of the heist, the adrenaline of the chase, the camaraderie forged in hidden canyons. They painted a picture of untethered liberty, a rebellion against the iron grip of civilization creeping ever westward. Yet beneath that veneer lay the unforgiving truth, a world of bone-deep exhaustion, where every dawn brought new perils, every shadow hid a betrayal, and most stories ended not in glory, but in a shallow grave, or the snap of a noose under a cottonwood tree. The legends we've unraveled, those dime novel heroes with lightning draws and unbreakable codes, were born from the ashes of real men and women, desperate souls like Jesse James, haunted by war's scars and driven by a resentment that burned hotter than any prairie fire, or Billy the Kid, an orphaned boy tumbling through fate's cruel whims, his youthful defiance amplified into folklore that still captivates us today. Belle Starr, the so-called bandit queen, shattered expectations with her velvet skirts and steely resolve, yet her end came in ambush, unsolved, and shrouded in whispers of curses from the Indian Territory's misty hollows. Butch Cassidy and Sundance. Those enigmatic partners in crime vanished into South American mists. Their fate's a tangle of shootout tales and survival rumors that fuel endless speculation. Even the deadliest, like John Wesley Hardin, claimed a tally of kills wrapped in ego, and hatred only to meet his maker in a saloon brawl, his legend outliving the man, but glossing over the moral rot that defined him. Sam, Bass, Bill, Doolin, Jim Miller, they all chased the same elusive dream, rustling cattle under starlit skies, or blasting open safes in dusty towns, their exploits twisted by ballads and broadsheets into something almost noble. But strip away the myths and you're left with the raw essence. Poverty's grip turning honest folk crooked, the psychological toll of paranoia, eroding souls like wind on sandstone, and downfalls that came swift and merciless, whether from a Pinkerton's bullet, a rival's knife, or the slow poison of isolation and regret. The West was no romantic frontier. It was a crucible that forged legends from suffering, where native spirits and settler superstitions intertwined in stories of haunted hideouts, cursed treasures buried in haste and never reclaimed, and ghostly apparitions replaying bloody ambushes in abandoned ghost towns. We've peeled back those layers, separating the Hollywood glamour, the quick draw duels that rarely happened, the Robin Hood generosity that was mostly fiction, from the gritty realities of cholera-ridden camps, festering wounds treated with whiskey, and prayer and families torn asunder by the call of the trail. Yet even in that harsh light, the allure persists, doesn't it? The Wild West's mysteries endure because they speak to something primal in us all, a yearning for unbound horizons, for lives lived on the edge, where every choice carried the weight of legend. Folklore kept these tales alive, passing them down through generations like heirlooms, turning outlaws into archetypes that haunt our collective imagination. the rebel avenger, the boy bandit, the queen of the plains. But as we ponder the fleeting freedom versus the inevitable doom, ask yourself, in the end, was the Wild West's call worth answering? Would the rush of gold in your hands outweigh the noose's shadow, or the solitude of a canyon hideout eclipse the warmth of a hearth left behind? These enigmas, unsolved murders like Bell's vanishing fortunes, like Butch's spectral sightings in places like Hole in the Wall, remind us that history is never fully buried. It whispers from the earth, urging us to dig deeper, to question what we've been told. The frontier may have closed, but its legends ride on eternal, as the Rockies themselves, inviting us to explore the blurred lines between myth and memory, truth and tall tale. And who knows, perhaps in some forgotten arroyo, the ghosts of these outlaws still gather around phantom campfires, sharing stories that could unravel even more mysteries if we only knew where to listen. Thank you for joining me on this epic journey. Through the shadows of the Wild West, your presence here makes these explorations all the more thrilling. If this tale of outlaws, heists, and haunting legends has sparked your curiosity, show it some love by hitting that like button. It helps spread these forgotten stories to more fellow adventurers like you. And if you haven't already subscribed to Sleepless Wonder, so you never miss our dives into history's enigmas, from unexplained archaeological wonders to urban legends that chill the bone. Drop a comment below. What aspect of outlaw life intrigued you most? The daring robberies, the psychological toll, or the enduring myths? Or if there's a mystery legend or piece of hidden history you'd love us to uncover next? Perhaps the unexplained ghost towns of the West, or the folklore of lost treasures in the Sierra Nevada. Let me know. Your suggestions often become our most captivating episodes. Until next time, keep wondering, keep exploring, and remember, in the vast expanse of the unknown, the greatest adventures are the ones that keep you up at night. Ride safe out there.